Hello and welcome to Youth in Mind Talks, our Voices for Hope series.
In this series you'll be hearing about some of the amazing resilience shown by younger people and the professionals that work with them in this time of unprecedented global crisis. From online festivals to peer support projects, this series proves to be both thought-provoking and inspirational.
Our Voices for Hope will include conversations from young people, from sector leaders, so from the voluntary sector, and also from leading researchers. So we have lots of voices engaged in this series. You'll be hearing lots about how young people have tackled mental health themselves, and also about why it's just so important that children and young people are engaged in the conversation about youth mental health. And finally, we'll be hosting an intimate conversation with young people, exploring the topic of diversity, inclusion and hope. But first, we wanted to deep dive into this topic a little bit for you. So Dan, why Voices for Hope? Why that topic?
So I think when we were planning these talks, we've been looking back on the last 18 months. It's been the most incredible time period, hasn't it? And the pressures on young children are unprecedented, whether it was the debacle over exams, are they going to sit it? The homeschooling impact, the uncertainty that's come from the pandemic, people losing loved ones and all of the rest of it. And we have seen an increase in mental health issues amongst our younger population as a consequence. And sometimes that can feel a bit hopeless, but there is hope out there as well. And that's what we want to try and shine a light here, is both the challenge and the hope that we'll be making the world a better place as we come out of this pandemic.
Absolutely, and I think from the series of voices that we're all going to be hearing today, we absolutely know that there's a huge amount of hope and resilience in young people, and actually some of the stories that we're hearing from young people about the ways in which they have overcome obstacles and that have supported their own health and well-being through the pandemic and also been helping others has just been very inspiring. And actually what we wanted to do is kind of bring this to people and really showcase some of that real positivity in the lives of young people and things that are happening.
Well, I think that's right. And some of just the examples and the eloquence of some of these young people, the resilience they've shown and the leadership that they've shown in their communities actually provides me with a lot of hope for the future.
Absolutely, and I think one of the other themes that that we're talking about is actually really hearing from children and young people. One of the pieces of research that you'll get to hear about is actually got the voice of 27,000 young people in it, which if we're not going to listen to that piece of research, then what should we be listening to? Because actually that's very kind of clear data for us around what young people are saying. And also there's another interview a bit later on between two young people. One person's talking about how they really didn't like the support and services that were available around kind of mental health and well-being, and the other one had a really positive experience. And so it's just great to kind of really hear some of the challenges and actually what young people are saying we really need to be changing, so that us adults can listen and really take notes and make sure that we're tackling those issues from the grassroots and really understanding that from young people. I think that's really why we're here today.
So I think that's enough from us. Let's get on with the series. We hope you really enjoy it. Please do engage with us using the hashtag YouthInMindTalksOxon.
So one presenter that we're really pleased and excited to be introducing today is Professor Mina Fazel, and she'll be presenting on her research from over 27,000 young people. It's so important that we really hear this data and understand what children and young people are saying when we're thinking about the support that we're providing for youth mental health. And so now I'll hand over to Professor Mina Fazel.
Thank you very much. I'm Mina Fazel. I run with an incredible team the Oxford School Survey, where we ask children across the region about their mental health and well-being. So what I'm going to do is share some of the latest findings with you. So these are the schools that participated in 2021. So 30,000 kids responded from Oxfordshire, Buckinghamshire, Berkshire, and then over 11,000 in the Liverpool area as well. So 180 schools, and these are children from years 5 to 13 or aged 8 to 18. And we ask a whole range of questions, so it's about 350 questions. We look at kind of primary and secondary school. What we really like is that every school that participates gets their own report. of it at the end of August, so a couple of months after they participate. And also this platform called the Load Seeker platform that I'll tell you about at the end is a place where they can access all the data for their own school. So because we ask so many questions, it might be that we're not going to report to the schools on the specific questions schools are interested in, but schools can go in, for example, I'm interested in the boys in year 9 and bullying, what's going on? You can go into the data and see that, for example. So what we also like about it is that it's completed at school, so we get the whole school participating. So it's not just the kids that choose to participate because their parents are a bit more organised than I am and fill out the consent forms. You know, this is an opportunity to ensure that we get as much representation as possible. And as I said, it's a massive team effort. So the next slide will tell you the areas that we look at in that. So we ask about general well-being with a whole load of questionnaires looking at kind of general well-being, exercise, sleep. Then we look at kind of the more at-risk population. So we look at those that are telling us they're depressed and anxious. We ask quite a lot about substance misuse. We've brought in in 2021 internet gaming and some of those behaviours. And then at the end we're able to look at the kind of populations of concern as well. So those that are saying they're self-harming and being abused. So what do we know about mental health and well-being this year? Well, this is the results from the WEMWEBs, which is the well-being measure, and this is kind of consistent across year groups. So we've got year 5 to 13 here. I sort of want you to ignore years 11 and 13 because the numbers were small because most of them were taking examinations. But what you see is that by the time they're getting to year 12, the group in red are saying that they've got low well-being, and that's like 50% of them are reporting that they're coming out low. So this is massively concerning. About 22% at the end of primary school, but that's going up. And this is consistent with all studies looking at mental health and well-being in adolescent populations, that the older the children are getting, the more it seems they're suffering from their mental health problems. And we look at something called the Ark-T, which is a specific questionnaire looking at anxiety and depression. And in that, so that's a clinical measure, CAM services use this measure. You can see that actually depression and anxiety does seem to be pretty consistent across these age groups. Around kind of 18 to 26% are saying that they have anxiety, are falling in what we would call the clinical thresholds for anxiety and depression. We asked about exercise. We're quite interested in this. And so we kind of asked, compared to the first lockdown, how much exercise you're doing, because there's been a lot of concerns about changing patterns of behaviour, more sedentary behaviour, so many after-school clubs closing, so much limitation in what schools are even able to offer as well. And actually, the green is more and the red is less. And that's somewhat heartening, I think, that over half really are saying that they're doing more exercise, but there are kind of about a third that are saying that they're doing less. This is what we were quite interested in, with social media and gaming. So we asked about playing games on your phone, playing games on electronic devices, playing games or computer games on a console, and being on social media. Now, the red group is 4 hours a day or more, and the green group is less than 1 hour. Now, we need to take a bit of a deeper dive into this data because quite a lot of young people didn't answer this question, because you could choose which questions to answer, and it might have been that a lot of them had just, their time had run out anyway when they got to this question, so we need to understand it. But of those who answered, and well over half answered this question, you can see that like 48% of those that answered are saying they're spending 4 hours or more a day playing games on a computer or games console. So, you know, 37% are saying that they're spending 4 hours a day or more on social media. So this is kind of dramatic changes in the way people are interacting. And obviously the social space is becoming much more a kind of blend between online and in person, but we really need to understand what that means. So we ask about loneliness. How often do you feel lonely? And for these kind of, you know, often and sometimes, so sometimes is in orange and often is in red. And we're seeing kind of 24-25% of year 12s are saying that they often feel lonely. And if you take kind of those that are saying sometimes and often, it's well over half across all the year groups are saying they're feeling lonely. And we're particularly interested in this because I think thinking about the pandemic, thinking about how things have changed, thinking about just kind of social interactions as a whole, what does it mean, what's happened, and what does loneliness actually mean when it comes to well-being and drivers of depression, possibly of self-harm. And we're doing some analyses looking at that actually it might be, if you're a school, that the most powerful mental health intervention you can do is to improve social connectedness amongst your students. You don't need to get school counsellors in necessarily. It might be that you improve the opportunities there are for young people at school to interact with each other and build what we call authentic social networks. We asked, how much do you identify with your school community? We're quite interested in this sense of belonging, sense of community. And the pink is disagree and the blue is agree. So this is male and female. But we're getting kind of, almost a quarter of males and females saying that they don't identify with their school community, and that's the group I think is very concerning for me, because it might be what we call a low-hanging fruit. It might be actually one of the simplest interventions we can make, is doing things to help young people feel better in touch and aligned and building meaningful relationships with their peers. So we asked about worries. So we asked, how much do you worry about certain things? And these are kind of 4 slides now that show you about different worries. So we asked about their appearance, and the first half is their gender mix, male, female, other, and then by year group. And the dark red is extremely worried, and the orange, I'm sorry you might be able to see that well, is worried. But what this shows is that for females, 75% are falling in the worried or extremely worried, well, half are coming extremely worried. But even for the males, half of them are coming out as worried or extremely worried about their appearance. We asked about, is it how, doing well at school, how worried are you? Understandable concerns with so much disruptions and so much emphasis on academic achievement. And again, similar kind of numbers about being worried about doing well at school. And then we asked about the climate and the environment and what's being termed more and more as eco-anxiety. And about a quarter of males and females are saying that they're extremely worried about the environment, which is probably a correct thing for them to be worried about. We've had some comments on social media saying it actually should be abnormal if young people are not worried about the environment. So there's kind of major concern that we need to start really acknowledging and really starting to act, because actually, it's very worrying. And I think what we know in adolescence is you become more aware of justice and injustice. You become more aware of the impact of your behaviour and the behaviours of others on those that might be more deprived. And so actually this is a really important part of adolescence, and for us, those that work with young people, to find ways to help channel some of those concerns into positive action, which might help. And we also ask about kind of the major concerns that is ripping through society, as well as rippling through society, of austerity and socioeconomic deprivation and the major stresses, especially brought about by the events of the last 5 years politically and obviously with the pandemic. And we're seeing kind of quite large numbers of young people extremely worried about not having enough money to pay for living costs. So this is around kind of 10%, which is very high. So just a few more slides now, just to give you a taste of what young people have been telling us. So we asked about sleep, and we asked kind of, how often are you too worried to sleep? So that's quite a high hurdle, to be too worried to fall asleep. I don't know, I think it's a high hurdle because I'm always so tired, I just fall asleep immediately. But so this is kind of like, if I'm too worried to sleep, something majorly is affecting me. And so part of the kind of change in how you sleep is developmentally appropriate. We know that adolescence, there is a natural shift in the sleep-wake cycle, but we're getting kind of 37% of year 12s saying that they're often too worried to sleep. That is a massive, massive number. And even in the younger years, we're getting around a third, which is still, I think, unacceptably high numbers, and we need to understand what's going on. And then we ask kind of in the hour before you intend to sleep, how often do you go on screens? How often do you use social media? So there's basically, as we would anticipate, quite a lot of it. Now, it's part of a kind of bedtime routine for lots of young people to check in with their friends maybe, but it might be that for others it's a much more stimulating activity. You just watch one TikTok and then look at 17,000 others, or what, we just need to understand what impact these changes in how young people are interacting with the world are impacting on other aspects of their well-being. So we asked a bit about safety, and I'll just present a few of those slides here. So we asked about self-harm. We asked a lot about kind of exposure to other abuses as well this year that we've added to the survey. And in 2021, 6.7% of our respondents, so we only asked this from those years 8 to 13, so we don't ask the children younger than 12 basically, but 6.7% are saying that they have self-harmed within the last month, which I think is a very high number. And we ask about how safe they feel at home, and there is a group of around 7 to 8% who are saying that they're feeling unsafe at home as well. We ask about bullying and exposure to bullying, and this is quite heartening. Well, it's still quite a lot, but bullying, as kind of a lot of the data shows, goes down as you get older through the school. So it's quite prominent in the primary school populations, but it goes down. But there's still kind of, around the 5 to 10% mark in the older year groups, but that is still an unacceptable number, and it feels like children in the older year groups, though, are much less tolerant of abuse, much more concerned about how their school is dealing with abuse. So, for example, in the next slide, we ask, how well do you think your school deals with bullying? So if you remember the previous slide, most of the bullying, the large numbers are happening in years 5 and 6, but they're actually only 15 to 20% of those year groups are thinking the school deals badly with bullying. Yet, if you look at years 9 and 10, which actually not that many were reporting they're being bullied, but most of them think their schools deal badly with it. So that must be something about adolescence as well, about how you start reinterpreting the world around you, being critical of those in authority, thinking actually, gosh, I remember when that happened to me, that was dealt with badly. So just re-evaluating, being more aware of the young people who might be targeted, and thinking that the approaches and responses are not appropriate. I don't know, there might be a whole range of reasons, but I find that very, very interesting, but that doesn't reflect the incidence. And we ask a lot about how young people would like to access support and further support. And so over half think that it's quite easy to access mental health support. And we have this year asked so many questions about whether they find it helpful, what type of support they think they want, what are the barriers to accessing support. So hopefully over the year we'll be able to find ways to analyse this and let services know and schools know. But for example, we ask who provides support in your school, and so a lot of young people, for those of you that are in the teaching professions, are pointing to 25% say their head of year, 23% saying their class teacher are the people who offer their mental health support, and their likely first port of call. And so not to underestimate the important role that everybody in the system plays, because it might be that you're the only person that young person would ever approach in order to get further help and support. So I'll just end with a few slides on COVID-19. So we were able to ask about vaccination. So we asked about the COVID vaccine, how willing are you to have a vaccination? And actually, this was in June 2021, and 50% said that they were willing, 37% said they were undecided, and about 13% said they would opt out actively. But what was quite interesting about this was that for the sixth formers, if you show the next slide, 78% were willing, which was reflective of the adult population at that time, with the others undecided and opting out. But if you go younger, for those who are 13 years old, half were willing, many more were undecided. When you get to the younger populations, about a third were willing, but actually half were undecided. And so that's really forced us to talk a lot with policymakers about the importance of actually getting information out there, because they're not saying they don't want the vaccination. They're rightly saying, I don't know, I need to talk to my parents maybe, or whatever it is, but the information is not being tailored to young populations. Policymakers were rightly targeting the 60 years and older to get vaccinated, but now that the vaccination drives are going to younger age groups, what are we doing to help those that are undecided learn more? Very interesting, we asked about cognitions as well. So we said, compared to before the first lockdown, how easy have you found it to concentrate? We asked us also about memory and attention, but I'll just share the concentration one with you for now. And here, compared to before the pandemic, are you finding it more difficult, the same, or easier? And look at this. Look how many young people are saying they're finding it more difficult now to concentrate than they did before. And we're trying to link that to previous COVID infections maybe, or kind of attitudes towards learning or methods of learning, but that is a serious issue that I think comes as no surprise to those of you in the classrooms who are managing, quite complicated environments where young people who haven't been in structured settings are coming back in. It's just been, I think, a very difficult time, but the young kids themselves are saying how difficult it is for them as well. So I'd just like to end and say, that our reflection so far is that the wellbeing data is worrying. There are high rates of young people saying that they're not doing so well. They have a wealth of worries about their appearance, about doing well at school, about the environment. We're thinking that actually we need to think a lot more about sleep, so we want to plan a sleep week where we just create a whole range of resources for different ages, different teachers, different classes, different assemblies, for families, for teachers, and we're planning to do this hopefully around March to see whether we can really just help a lot of young people, because sleep seems to be something that gets affected quite early in a whole range of difficulties. Still quite worrying levels of bullying and abuse, and we have to start to understand a lot more about online screen and behaviour use. So, just to go on a little bit more, we've been trying to also learn about how to share our findings, so we've been just creating things on Insta, for example, about vaccinations. There's a lot of the hesitancy driven by needle phobia, which is very common in young people. We've been creating posters for schools, so these are some examples that the schools that were involved at Oxwell got, but if you're interested we could also share with you, just to get the data out to young people. We're trying to get onto TikTok and ask influencers, so there are a few examples of it. I won't share that now. And then for those of you in Oxwell schools, this is an example of what the Load Seeker platform will do. So you get this fully interactive system where schools are able to go in, be able to pull up different reports on different questions. You don't know which other schools are involved, but you get to see where your school ranks in relation to others. So my God, 20% of kids are saying they're bullied. How does that compare? It might be that that's quite good. You don't know, but they give you these kind of traffic light systems where you're able to do it, and then you're also able to pull up through the Load Seeker the results of your school in a whole range, because we're just really interested in everyone having access to the data. We don't want to be researchers, take your data away and just kind of never share it with you. So with schools get it, we're trying to get young people to get the data as well. So keep in touch, and thank you very much.
Mina, thank you for that presentation. It was really insightful. I've just got a few questions coming out of what we were talking about. And as a researcher, it's always really hard, isn't it, to look at cause and effect and understand what the correlation is. But I think it's really interesting you've got the large number of people showing the low well-being scores.
I know.
You've got the high amount of time that people are engaging online. You've got an increase in loneliness, an increase in the use of digital technology. Are these things linked? What can we say about cause and effect in the world?
So with our data, we can't say much about cause because it's what we call cross-sectional. So we can just look at what's associated with whatever, with other measures. So we need to talk to young people as well, because actually that's kind of going to help us understand and enrich our understanding of it. But we can't ignore the fact that these are major things going on and major changes. And, I do think that we need to be quite concerned about time spent on social media, yet reports of loneliness. But actually, and we've got some interesting data on self-harm, for example, and how the kids, when they're at that most distressed in a way, don't want to go online, don't turn to online resources. Actually, they want to turn to humans. And so, I think the reality is there's so many good things about social media. I learned so much about the world through it. So it's about, how do we understand the role it plays? How do we help young people be more measured in their engagement with it? And how do we ensure that it doesn't replace real social interactions, if that's what you're able to do, because that might be enriching in different ways.
And so I suppose the message for teachers and parents, like so many other things, it's about balance. It's about getting the right balance. And I suppose many of us feel that 4 hours a day gaming might not be the right amount of time, and that might be something to look at. So it's just, there's no way we can go stop doing it. That's not going to be the right message. Like, don't use your phone for the 5 hours before you go to sleep. It's just not going to be a message that's ever going to work. So it's about, how do we tailor it? How do we make it acceptable? But I suppose we also have to just learn exactly where is it best and worst used, so that we could say to young people, look, these types of activities, it seems, will impact on your sleep. So if you're concerned about your sleep, then try not to do those activities then. Do them at this time. So it's about finding the right language as well. Very good. You talked about school community identification, and about a quarter of youngsters not really identifying strongly with their school, which is the community, really.
The community,
of their time. And you were saying that might be a bit of a low-hanging fruit, something to think about. Do you have any top tips for any school leaders listening to this talk about how they can help that group of non-engaged?
So I think what I'm saying to a lot of school leaders is, just have confidence in your instincts about what you think is right as a school leader, because you're getting messages from parents and from kind of Department of Education that you have to get academic achievement up and you need to get grades up, but actually just trust your instincts. Most teachers and school leaders know they need a sense of community, know that these kind of unstructured times or the more creative opportunities the school offers that isn't necessarily assessed are important. And what I say is, just stick to that, do it. Make sure that you maintain all of these opportunities, that you place an expectation amongst your kids that so I've got a child at a school where she's informed me that they have to do 3 extracurricular activities that aren't sport. And no one's measuring it and no one's saying yes, no, but actually just being told that has just, as a parent or as a teacher, you need to go, it doesn't matter if you don't get your homework done tonight, it's more important that you've gone and done X or Y, so I think it's just having confidence in, there's very few teachers I meet who think it's a good idea for kids not to build that kind of whole range of interactions with other people and learn new skills, especially ones that aren't they're not good
measured.
at.
We need
that
to give
aren't
ourselves
measured.
permission to have fun, to do the non-measured.
And school leaders, just don't worry about, because there's a small minority of parents who will be upset at that stuff, but the vast majority, who are usually quiet, are delighted that you take that approach.
And all parents want their children to be happy. That's the prime. You speak to any parent, what do you want out of life? I want my child to be happy. So 50% of children would say that they're finding it hard to access mental health support, or that they were finding it hard or medium hard. What more can we do to get the message out? How can we engage with young people? Help exists. I mean, we know that help exists. And yet a lot of people are not finding it. So what more can we do?
Well, there are 2 aspects to that. One is, not every single difficulty needs mental health support officially. So I think that there is a bit of a knee-jerk, someone's distressed and crying in class, oh, let's get the school counsellor, oh no, whatever. I think we need to be a little bit measured. We need to step back and look. We need to see, has the child shown any other features of concern? Have they stopped engaging with a peer group? Are they not attending as well? Whatever. So I think we also just need to be a little bit nuanced. There's a bit of a knee-jerk panic right now. So we don't need to panic. is kind of fluctuations in mood are normal. A few crises are normal, and kind
especially
of
teenage years.
And actually, if you've got that kind of extracurricular offer, you've built your self-esteem doing other things, that might be all you need just to be reassured. Don't worry, I agree, that's rubbish. Let's try it, whatever. So that's the first thing. I think we've got a DJ response now. Everyone has to be referred the minute they're a little bit upset, and I'm like, no, they don't. And then when it comes to the offer, we need to just see. So we've got data, and we need to start analysing it. What the kids are saying they want, you know. And there was one school we were looking at with some with the local authority where we asked who provides mental health support at your school, and in this year 9 group, 95% said their head of year. So we're like, let's go and speak to that head of year. Like,
what are they doing so well?
What are they doing? That actually the whole year is pretty uniform. So we just need to understand about, you know, what young people seem to want and need, and how we make that easier. And there are examples of good practice, but a lot of young people are saying it's not accessible. So we need to be thinking about it, and that's my area of interest. So watch this space.
So last question from me. I think 2 of the things that came out with the focus on physical activity and sleep.
Yes.
I know that from a well-being point of view, those are 2 of the most important factors, aren't they? Getting good sleep and being active can make such a positive impact on your mental health and well-being. So I just wondered if there was anything more you wanted to say about it.
Yeah, it seems like consistent, and actually anyone listening, it's the same for adult populations too. So, you know, I keep looking at the data and hoping physical activity doesn't come out there, but it does. So, you know, whether you're a kid or whether you're an adult, if you actually want to maintain your well-being, it seems that you can't get away from aerobic activity. You know, breaking out a sweat helps in a whole range of factors, not just your physical health, but your mental well-being. And sleep, I think we need to think about. I think we need to work harder. We really want to do a lot more, I think, at the university to understand about this, and to work with schools to support. You know, we need to work with families, with young people, with teachers. We need to find, this is a lifelong skill that young people need to learn.
And we do know that physical activity and sleep are linked as well. So if you do more physical activity, you'll sleep better and your well-being's better, and then you'll do more, you know. So there's that virtuous circle. But, you know, it's not as easy for some young people to engage in sport. So, you know, it's about making sure there's an offer that then is acceptable. You know, for some kids, you know, have certain items of clothing they want to wear or don't want to expose their bodies in certain ways. But what sports can they engage in? How are we making it easy? I don't think we are. I don't think there are great options. So if you're a boy that plays football, easy.
It seems relatively easy for other groups who aren't boys who like to play football. You know, we have to find out what other types of sport there are, because there are thousands of sports, so we need to be a little bit more creative as well.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. It's been a masterclass. I think that 30,000 data point survey is an amazing resource.
Yeah.
So, you know, thank you for highlighting that today. Final question, anyone listening to this who hasn't been involved, who would like to get involved, how do they add their school or their cohort into this?
Yeah, so, you know, firstly, thank you very much for all the schools that participated, because it's a massive school effort and investment for which we are incredibly grateful, and the young people who did spend all that time answering questions. So these have been run through Buckinghamshire, Berkshire East and Berkshire West and Oxfordshire local authorities. So every single school in those authorities were invited to participate. So we will do it again, hopefully in February 2023. Right. So we're going to move it away from the horrific summer term to February. So not going to do it next year, except for maybe in special schools. We're going to move to February 2023. Just, you know, write to us directly if you want to be involved then. But really it's to look out in the emails, because the local authorities will invite you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Professor Mina Fazel, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Nikki from SOFEA. I'm the therapeutic team lead, and I'm here today with Sophie. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Understand, Enable, Empower programme that we ran during the pandemic, and a little bit about the impact that it had on our mental health and kind of the hope that it gave us through the pandemic. So yeah. So Soph, let's talk a little bit about you first. What brought you to SOFEA?
Well, I'd finished secondary school. I had then gone on to college. Hadn't had the greatest experience, and then was stuck in a place of sort of limbo with nowhere to go. Didn't know what to do after that. and was recommended to come to SOFEA.
Amazing. So how long have you been at SOFEA now?
2 years, and this will be my third.
Wow, so going into third year.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
So now I'm doing a kickstart role where I work within the classroom with one-to-one support, and so like help people that might need the extra help in the classroom, and just talking to them, help them feel comfortable, sort of thing. Yeah.
Amazing. When you first joined SOFEA, so that was only 3 years ago, did you have any sort of idea of where you would like to go with it?
I had no clue. I think I just went to SOFEA with no hopes for anything. I didn't have any hopes for myself, you know what I mean? I just sort of come there because I had nowhere else. And it sure helped.
Sure helped. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously you came on the Understand, Enable, Empower programme. So the Understand, Enable, Empower programme we ran in the first pandemic, and it was initially an 8-week programme, and the aim of that was to get together a group of young people to talk kind of all things mental health, so not only to benefit our own mental health but to kind of advocate positive mental health in the community. Some of the things we covered were like managing and understanding our anxieties, building confidence and resilience. What else did we do? Leadership skills. We did a session on diversity and differentiation, and we're currently in the second cohort of it now, which you've been helping to lead as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Amazing. So in terms of Understand, Enable, Empower, what do you feel you got out of it?
I got a better understanding of my own mental health, and it helped me to feel less alone with what I was feeling, sort of thing, and helped me sort of start the conversation as well, like just being able to speak to people and hear that back, that other people get anxious, because you can be told somebody else is anxious, but it's different when you experience it and you can see it's the genuine, that person's experiencing it as well.
Yeah.
It's like a different level of connecting sort of way. Yeah. I remember kind of being there, and actually the level of like vulnerability that we had in the room was really nice. And I remember one of the sessions you had said, it's so nice not to feel judged, so I can just admit that I have anxiety and that's okay, and I know other people do as well. Yeah, I think just because it was an uncomfortable topic to talk about for me, and then just having that space, it just shocked me almost about how comfortable I could feel talking about something I'd never ever want to speak about, but struggled so much with. Yeah.
So obviously we did it like smack bang in the middle of the pandemic, didn't we?
Yeah.
How did you find that? Because obviously I think outside the pandemic it would have been great, but what was your experience of it, doing it in a lockdown?
Yeah, I think first of all, just going to any space where there was people in that time was a hard thing for me. Anxiety aside, just to do with COVID, I was a bit uncomfortable doing it. But then, once it was sort of settled in, then it was more comfortable, and it actually felt really good to actually be outside my house with real people, not on a laptop. It's just a complete different way of doing something.
Yeah.
It's just so much more beneficial.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just having that space, like you say, face to face in the pandemic, and I didn't actually think it was going to be possible, so the fact we could was really nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. I think it was needed.
It was needed, yeah. Like connectivity is important, isn't it? Amazing. So thinking about your experiences of obviously doing Understand, Enable, Empower, and kind of going through SOFEA, you're in your third year now, you're now a member of staff. Through those experiences and thinking about your mental health, what have you learnt about yourself, do you think?
I would say I've learned that I am more than my anxious thoughts, and more than what they're telling me I am. And that I can speak about it, and it is going to help me to speak about it, and that it is something that quite a few people go through. It's just something that's unfortunately quite hard for some people to talk about, which makes it a bit more difficult. But I've learned that I can speak about it, and it might be awkward, but it's definitely better for me too.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. Like, it might be awkward, it might be really hard, and it's not necessarily going to be like the easiest thing to do, but actually in the long run, for you as an individual, it has been a good thing.
I think it was just being able to have that space to get out of that comfort zone as well, because it was a big thing for me to do that sort of thing, just speak about it. But then I never knew how much it would help, to be honest.
Absolutely.
I didn't expect what I'd get from it. I think that was a good thing to go in without any expectations. I just didn't go with any. I just went along.
What will be will be.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks for listening and joining in with this series. We do hope you've enjoyed it.
If there's one thing I know, it's not easy being me. But now that I've been told, I know that I can achieve. Take some time to see how where we were to where we now. I can achieve, there's no stopping me,
Black Lives Matter.
Welcome everyone.
Lovely to be here.
So today we are going to have a little conversation about a broad title, which is diversity, inclusion and hope, right? And that does seem like quite a lot in a sense, but what I think we will probably discover in our conversation is that it can be simple, or it can be simplified, or it can be huge, okay? So I want to just particularly note that the sort of time that we're in at the moment is something where these words, abstract nouns if you like, an abstract noun is like a huge word that can kind of sort of float like a cloud over everything. But we're going to talk a little bit about what they mean to us and also what they can be in terms of like a vehicle coming out of something very difficult or something that's quite life-changing and what we've all been through together, really. Okay, so I'm going to start by just having a little thought experiment about just what diversity actually means, because it's another big word, isn't it? So, and it's used everywhere. Everybody uses it without necessarily, defining it. So it would be good for us to have a collective definition that we're working from here. So if you want to just jump in with any kind of thoughts, what does diversity mean to you?
Well, I don't know. I think for me, like the first thing that kind of springs to mind, other than the dance group, obviously, is just like a kind of a range of different things. So it's like it's not everything being the same. It's like having a range of different experiences or different people or different things basically. It's the opposite of everything being the same, I guess. That's kind of how I would see it.
Thank you. Holly, what about you? You've got your thoughts on?
Quite similar. Everyone just being different, nobody being the same, no one having the same situation. Everyone's got a different, even if you're in a similar boat.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's the same thing as well. Like everyone has a different mindset, which is, I guess, what makes everything different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for diversity in a general sense is like making sure everything's different. But for me, when I think of diversity, I'm thinking about like in positions of like power and stuff. Like how do we get diversity and stuff like that? That's what springs to mind immediately for me. And it's like making sure every single group of people has representation. So yeah, that's kind of when someone says diversity, it's like how do we make sure positions of power have the different situations that people live in represented.
Of course, that's crucial, isn't it? Because you can't really have diversity without the instruments of power kind of also embracing the same thing. So everybody mentioned one word which was common, which was difference. So perhaps we're basically talking about celebrating difference, aren't we? But then with the power structure side of it, it's putting value on that difference. So, and that value gives power, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's for me, I feel like it's celebrating those differences rather than kind of looking at those differences as a difficulty or as a problem. It's celebrating those differences and well, firstly accepting those differences and secondly celebrating them and using them as an advantage, I think.
Yeah, quite right. I mean, essentially we are all kind of involved in one aspect or another in kind of situations or arenas where diversity and inclusion, are very much part of the philosophy, I think. And so in terms of moving over to the word inclusion, what does that mean to you? So I feel like we're really kind of like honing in on this a little bit, which is nice.
Including everyone, no matter their past, their disabilities, their body, just them, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think to be inclusive, I agree. You've got to make sure that if you're setting something up or you're in charge of something, it's making sure that you're not actively stopping someone coming, but also you're not like there's nothing. For example, wheelchair access is a big thing. Like if you're setting up anything, if you're anywhere with stairs, it's going to be difficult to make sure to have like ways to make sure that people can be included, so that so it's not. Sorry.
No, you are making yourself very clear. Actually, I think.
Inclusion is making sure that you've got the resources that if anyone from any group wanted to come there, they can, and there's also there's also active. Like there's posters around the schools that like we need girls in medicine. Like making sure there's active steps to try get that inclusion as well. Not just saying people can come here, but we are actively making sure that they know that they can come here as well.
So maybe inclusion isn't inclusion without action.
Yeah, it's like passive inclusion might be something like saying we're not going to stop a person of colour coming to this club. But then active inclusion is making sure that you've got like posters around that advertise that you're accepting of these things. Yeah.
But then again, with the whole posters and everything, sometimes making people feel like they are different does make them feel a bit different, if that makes sense. So that's something I really do worry about.
Yeah.
So when I include everyone, I try to bring everyone coming in from different backgrounds, different skin, different religion, different ethnicity, everything just different, but without showing them that there is a problem with it, or without showing that there is an actual problem, just making sure they come in and they feel invited, just like everyone else would. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's one of the biggest factors of the whole posters and everything.
It's good to have that opposing view as well, which is that yes, it can, you can't take it for granted. Like, some people might not want their differences highlighted so much. But they want to feel that they can walk into a sort of an idea.
They just want to feel kind of normal. If that makes sense, just like everyone else. You know what I mean? But
so there is an argument that says if you call it inclusion, then it's not inclusive. So it's like a little bit like meta. It goes up into quite a lot of thought levels there. Yeah, go on.
So no, I was going to say it's such an important part of like doing diversity properly is including people so that you're not made to be other by being sort of you're not this, so you're kind of other, but we're going to include you anyway. It's sort of they need to kind of be almost hand in hand with each other. To be able to do diversity properly, you need to be inclusive, and to be able to do inclusion properly, you need to consider diversity properly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good point. And equality at the same time. So equality of opportunity is obviously about opening things up to everybody, and then the celebration of difference. The two things together, equality and diversity, are included in inclusion. So that's quite cool. Yeah. So can you think of something where, I mean, we just watched a video, which is inspiring. It's the blueprint video, and obviously, I think it kicked off. I could hear and feel like there was quite a reaction in us with that. One of the things that absolutely shouted out from it was the power of creativity in talking about inclusion and diversity. Okay, so what do you think the role of creativity is? How would you describe it, and how can you make it a real thing? So obviously, just on that basically. How is creativity linked to diversity, inclusion, and hope?
It's a way of expression.
Yeah.
So you can express your opinions, your feelings, your thoughts. Yeah.
Especially through young kids nowadays in these generations. There's a lot of people who are very into music, I guess, and what the blueprint, obviously the documentary showed us is that anything you have in your mind, especially anything creative, anything that you've got in here, put it on a piece of paper and express it with your words. And a lot of younger kids are inspired by it. So a lot of what's the sad thing is there's a lot of kids who are inspired by the wrong kind of artists, which is what really gets me a bit kind of angry. I see 13-year-olds rolling with knives, everything. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, and you hear the music they listen to, they're like all about doing things that they shouldn't be doing or anything. They're looking up to the wrong people. But when I see this, it really shows other people, like grown-ups or adults or whatever, who think music is a bad thing for kids, but we show them different. You know what I mean? We show them that music can always mean a good thing, not always negative, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, as you can see from the documentary, there's a lot of younger kids over there who has made a really good song, but if you listen to the words and meanings, it says a lot about what's going on in the world, how as well they pretty much just realised. And it's good for the upcoming generation, I guess.
Ben, have you got anything that you feel you've been involved in recently that's involving creativity but linked to any kind of particular thing to change?
Recently, I mean, I've not been involved in many, well, apart from this, I guess. There's not been very many large kind of projects that I've been involved in, mostly because of COVID. But I feel like there's definitely been lots of things that I have done. Like I've been involved in, I've been involved in a podcast talking about LGBTQ plus issues pretty recently. And I think for me, it's important to have the creative outlets, This is from a personal standpoint. I think it's often difficult to express your experiences through just saying your experiences, because I don't think English is great at communicating emotion sometimes. So I think being creative is important for that, because it allows you to try and more accurately express how you feel about things.
Well, I'm just going to get you to come in there based on that little comment there, which is that English can be quite restrictive, is what Ben's saying, but you have some kind of way of working with words, don't you, that can help?
Yeah, well, I think exactly what people have been saying, like the creativity and art are such valuable tools for kind of helping people's voice be heard. So like music, one phrase I quite often use when I'm working with music is like, music is what emotions sound like. And so like it's quite it's an amazing thing to be able to play a key on a piano or hear a note, and it's like that's how I feel, and you can't use English to put that to it. But then once you've got that music and you've got that kind of that foundation for what you want to say, it helps to express those words. You can say words that the music brings additional meaning to those words and additional emotion into what you're saying, and it helps people relate on a level that's maybe difficult to do in just a conversation or through the written word or something like that.
Holly, have you got any thoughts on creativity and how it can help to change things?
One thing that I have thought of is a couple of years ago we did this production called A Letter to Lacey, and it was basically about domestic violence, but domestic violence within young couples. So it shows that actually domestic violence isn't just with older couples, it can start at a young age. Like, there isn't an age where domestic violence starts, and that was quite powerful, and it was a good learning curve.
And so were you involved in producing that?
I was actually Lacey, so...
Oh, you performed it as a
Yeah.
character? Amazing. Wow, yeah, good. So drama is another one, isn't it? But
Performing. We
No,
also had like music and all kinds of stuff, like a part of it to kind of show the emotions and the story and everything.
Because of course nowadays we've got the technology to, create a small piece of work which is involving a creative kind of process, and to just dish it out sort of everywhere immediately, and that's extremely powerful. But what do you think are some of the dangers with that as well? I mean, for example, what obviously there are dangers with it, as we know, but it's really good to name them, isn't it? Just to kind of like make sure that we are bearing that in mind as we go forward. So what do you think are the other main dangers? You can speak from experience if you wish, if you feel safe enough to do so.
So the dangers of what exactly?
Of expressing through social media, and the advantages of it and the dangers.
So the advantage obviously is to get your word out there, spread out there through a huge audience, but there is a big disadvantage is there are really bad people on social media. When I say bad people, they don't necessarily have to look like a bad person. You can literally look however you want, but it's just behind the screens. It's the words they put out, everything's just, sometimes it really does get to you. For someone especially who's sensitive, they can't. I know people, for example, who's done videos, who's done songs, and they're really good, like they're amazing, but I see them take them down because people just give them hate. Hate. I'm like don't listen to anyone you're saying, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of people like that on the social media, and I feel like that's a really bad thing.
What's the best way of protecting yourself from that reaction, do you think?
Positive, just always think positive. Like, even if you can't, there's a lot of positive comments if you think about it. There's a lot of people who genuinely like your thing. If you're thinking about what bad people think, then you're not going to go anywhere in life, you know what I'm saying? The amount of hate I got from music, but I'm still doing it. You know what I'm
Follow
saying?
the positive comments, not the negative.
Always. People, you can have 60 positive comments and one negative, and you'll be stuck on that one negative comment for the rest of your life, because you're thinking, maybe that's true, but that's all about self-confidence as well. So things like Blueprint, for example, really did bring up my confidence, and especially a lot of young kids' confidence as well. Like, they used to be really shy, they didn't really like saying words. Like Emmanuel, who was doing the song, when I first met him, he was really shy, he didn't know what to do, he didn't know how to sing properly. Like, obviously he knows how to sing, but when it comes to the studio, all the pressure's on him, and he's like, I don't know if I want to say it or not. And you'd be surprised how many people are there in the world that are like that, who really are scared to shout out their ideas. I've got a really close friend who used to be like that as well, and he's really into short films, and he always has this idea, and it's amazing how I've known him for 2 years. The first day I knew him, none of it was coming up. I started getting closer to him recently. I go through his computer and all his work, and he's written about 60 different short films, but he's never showed anyone, and it's just like what are you doing, bro? Like, we started working on it now, so I'm helping him out right now with the short film.
That's amazing.
That he's got, and it's just incredible what a lot of people have all inside here, but it's incredible that you can't see it, you can't physically see what they've got up in here.
Yeah, what an inspiring story, and actually leads really nicely into the next part of what I want us to talk about is the idea of hope. And so hope has been kind of mentioned in so many different ways in media through the whole of lockdown. This thing to hold on to, this sort of handrail, and but what does it mean to you, and what does it actually look like, do you think? Who'd like to just...
Yeah. I mean, the idea of hope is that things are going to get better. And, I mean, yeah. I think that... I like to think that generally people as a whole are nice people, right? I think most of the time people are good people and they want to do good things. And I think that gives me hope. And I think it's just sometimes, as you said, with like that one negative comment, that's the thing that gets to you. And I think for me, it is difficult to not focus on it. But finding hope is like focusing on that a lot of people are good people, and it's just some people. There's a lot of good people out in the world, and you can't focus on just the bad people. You need to make sure.
Do you agree?
Everyone in the world was not raised to be genetically a bad person, and I'm gonna say this facts. Like, no one was raised up to be a racist. They were just taught, which is one thing that's really, really bad. It's the society just teaches us how to become people we are not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like everything that comes with this, all insecurities, everything that comes in this, every time I think about someone just giving a bad comment, I know they're just insecure about themselves. And that's the mindset I roll with. Anyone comes up to me and says, your music is bad, and they do music themselves, I know for a fact they're just insecure about their own music. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't really get to my head. I'm like, it's alright, bro, you know what I mean? Yeah. If it's bad, agree to disagree. It's bad, alright, you know what I mean? It's how I've become now. But back then I was never like that. I was always really kind of self-hard about myself. It's because I never kind of showed my expressions to anyone. Like, I would always be just such a quiet person. I'll be sometimes loud because obviously it's just who I am. But yeah, there's sometimes just it's all about.
It's kind of about like sort of, yes, there is accepting that there is negativity, but then also having that kind of that sort of psychoeducation in a way to know where it's coming from and know that it's not real. Perhaps is what I'm hearing. So. And then your reaction to it hopefully will protect you from that, from the negativity.
Yeah.
So once you understand where it's coming from, like you just said very, very eloquently, that it's not something that people are born with, it's something they learn. And then so that can overcome the negativity and therefore create hope. Does that sound about
100%?
Yeah? What about you, Holly? What does hope mean to you?
Like Ben said, some things are going to get better. Like, for instance, one of my hopes is that one day there will be a cure for one of my medical conditions. At the moment it only affects 2% of the world's population. There's medical trials going on in the US, but they're not available in the UK. So we're hoping that maybe one of these trials will work and we will have a cure and we'll all kind of stop dying. And actually I will be able to grow old and I'll be able to have a future. Yeah, that's my hope, is that I do grow old and have a future and just live life.
Yeah, exactly, and you're showing how important that hope is and how much it can mean to people. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Ross?
Yeah, I was just thinking that I think you could look at it as like hope is the opposite to fear. So it's kind of, you could choose to, you could live in a state where you're fearing that they're never going to find a cure for your medical condition, or you could live in the hope that they will find a cure or treatment. I think it's that kind of that optimism, I guess you could almost look at it as. But yeah, I was just thinking, just when I was listening to the three of you talk, I think it's the opposite to that kind of reaction of fear. You could be worrying about the negative comments and letting that hold you back, and the fear of getting more negative comments hold you back. Or you could live in the hope that, okay, maybe I'll get more positive comments on my next thing that I do, or I think I quite like that at the moment, that it's the opposite of fear.
Yeah. Nice. What would you say to somebody who was younger than you are now and still at school? There have been a lot of people who obviously were at home a lot of the time during lockdown, but now found it very difficult to go back to school. What would you say to them as a feeling or thought that might give them a bit of hope?
So when you say fear of going back into school?
Yeah, or to re-engage with their learning or their education.
Yeah.
Because it's just a very difficult thing to overcome because they've been so unused to that environment.
So there's my friend's son. He's having very similar problems. And the way that they're working it is that he tries to go into school in the morning and last as long as he can. For instance, the other week he wouldn't even turn up to school. This week he managed. By the end of the week he was in school for the whole day. But it's just taking those steps so that they're comfortable and they feel safe and they feel happy and going at their pace.
Yeah.
So with some schools, I guess one thing, because I've been to school, obviously, I finished school, but with school, I feel like reasons why some kids would not want to go in is because, in my opinion, the system they do is pretty much, here's this, do this for an hour or so, and just leave it. You know what I mean? That's some schools. I'm not saying every single school, but I know kids who I know kids that are younger than me who doesn't want to go to school because they feel like it's boring, and I feel like in school should never be boring. They should always try and liven it up, always make things better, especially for students with some, like, obviously they need help with a lot of work, or, you know what I'm saying, exactly, like, but they don't get that much. They just feel, English especially, English is such an important language, and maths, but if you go to the kids now and say, what subjects don't you like, they'll instantly come up with English or maths. But I feel like someone like me, I've got a good teacher. I've had a really good teacher for such a long time, and he was such a happy teacher. He's always giving us fun activities before we start the whole thing, and I feel like that's what a lot of student needs. So that's why I don't blame students who say, oh, I don't want to go to school, because I feel like, yeah, who would want to go to school? It's pretty much prison, you know what I mean? You can't leave unless you're told to leave. You can't go to the toilet until you're told to go to a toilet, you know what I'm saying? It's all just like that, which make kids like, you know what, that's my freedom gone, you know what I'm saying?
See, I was the opposite. I loved school because that was my chance to get away from my foster carers. I could be with my friends. I could do what I wanted. Like I was saying earlier, my school was quite, like, they were supportive and they stuck through me no matter what, but no matter how naughty I was, there was no punishment. Like, I could just do what I wanted, and I think that's why I enjoyed school, because I could go to school, see my friends, go to my lessons, do what I want, and that was far better than being at home with my foster carer.
So somebody might have kind of allowed that to happen because they perhaps were someone who understood your situation, perhaps, and was not going to come down hard on you because they understood you. So maybe what I'm hearing is that maybe we require people who, in order for us to have hope, we need sort of role models, don't we? Perhaps, or people who hold that hope for us, and that we can kind of move towards. Essentially,
I think. You know, obviously I'm a while past being a young person now, but like I think, you know, being listened to is a big part of it, like feeling that, you know, you're supported, you're definitely being supported, but also that your voice is being heard and being listened to. I feel like that's really important for, you know, for anyone struggling to kind of come through this lockdown situation and kind of get back into the kind of the public, whether it's work or school or whatever, you know, communication, like being able to talk to someone and feel like they're listening to you, and maybe that things are changing because of what you've said. That's something that I'll definitely try and keep in mind as an adult, definitely. So
yeah, and I think as for me personally, I think as well as being listened to, it's good to have someone who like understands what I'm going through as well. Like, not everyone's going to understand everyone else because we don't go through the same things, but I think having at least like one person in your life who you can talk to who's been through similar things, and you can say, oh, this thing happened to me the other day, and they're like, yeah, I know. It's good to know that you're not alone in a situation, that you can share an experience with someone, and the fact that they recognise that experience makes you feel like you're, you know, it's normal.
Yeah, no, I agree with speaking to other people about your situations, but growing up in this society, I've realised that's probably one of the worst things I could have done, because things burn very quickly. You know what I'm saying? Not everything's gonna last forever. Not your friendships is gonna last forever. Your relationship isn't gonna last forever. So speaking to someone about your situation, it's alright, but I've got really bad trust issues. You know what I mean? I've told not a lot of people, like 2 or 3 people about what actually goes on in my life. I don't see them again. And it's not even just that, it's that I hear behind my back that other people know the situation now. Which is, how do they know the situation? You know what I mean? So with this whole thing, the only people I kind of trust is pretty much my family, because you can replace friends, you can replace your best friend, you can replace your wife or your daughter. No, sorry, not your daughter, sorry. I meant to say like your friends, you know what I'm saying? But the one thing you can't replace is family. Even if you have a blood transplant, you still can't replace the fact that that's still your family member. So the people I speak to is my sisters. I've got 3 sisters. And I speak to all of them every time I've got a problem. Sometimes they don't understand, but so I turn to music. I turn to music to express my feelings, express the way I feel. Therapy doesn't help me. I'm telling you, I've been through a lot as a kid, growing up into this generation.
What do you think are the barriers with therapy helping? Because obviously it's designed to help, isn't it?
Yeah, therapy is designed to help, but sometimes some people really do feel intimidated by them. I used to feel intimidated by therapy, because one thing they would first start doing is ask questions. I'm like, just slow down real quick. You know what I mean? Like, we can maybe just get off from that subject for just a tiny bit, just to get my mind.
It's again what Holly was saying earlier about doing it at their own pace.
Like, I was supposed to leave CAMS when I was 18. I'm 26 now, and I'm still with the person who I got put with when I was 11 because of the trust issues I have. She knows, like, from her mouth, she will not pass me on to adult services, because she knows as soon as I go over, I'm just going to be a brick wall, and it's going to be starting from the very beginning again. And what they did with you was wrong. Like, you shouldn't be going in with questions. Like, mine sat me down, kind of. We went through a life book. We went through the things that I like. We went through what my family life is and what my home life is. And then she slowly, kind of, after a couple of months, then started to ask questions, and then kind of worked her way in. Yeah, she definitely helped me, but I think that's because she went at my pace and didn't go full force and go questions.
No, I feel like it's because they look at me and they think, oh, this guy's he's a big, strong man, he knows what he's talking about, whatever.
You can take it.
But deep inside, I can't. Like, it's you go through too much to the point where you're sat there, you're like, do I really want to give you these answers? Sometimes I even lie to their face. I'm like, nah, that never happened. Or nah, I don't feel like that. I feel fine, But, so I was going through such a bad time of my life because I don't know if you guys know, but I got stabbed. I've got stabbed by the wrong people. I didn't know them, I didn't know who they were, but they obviously knew me. And this is where social media really gets into danger. Okay. People can know you through social media from what you post, not from who you are, because your social media is pretty much highlights of yourself. You know what I'm saying? You only post the good things. You would never post the bad things on there. So when people look at you and they feel like, oh, this guy is living his life or whatever, doing his thing, they feel like, you know what, I'm gonna go ruin it for him. So they did.
So would you say that your outlet for this wasn't therapy, but it was actually through your creativity, which you were talking about earlier?
So exactly. So since I got stabbed, then first thing they did to me was, oh, we need to get you therapy. I'm there like, I don't need therapy. Like, please just leave me alone. I need alone time. I need to sit down. I'm not scared. I'm not like at all intimidated by the fact I got stabbed. I'm intimidated more. I went home. My mum collapsed on the floor. I have 3 sisters. One who's 10 years old. You know what I mean? We never let them see any horror movies or anything, and they see me come home with all of that. You know what I mean? So that really did have an effect on my head. So instead from kind of going to therapy and everything, I was introduced to Blueprint, which is what they took me in, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna do. We've had close conversations. I told them a lot of things that I know I can trust them with, and this is where music gets into I'm an entrepreneur as well, so I make my own clothes. So I start my own t-shirt brand called Culture, and it's pretty much just about diversity and everything. So just all into one word, just culture, and the slogan is the life I live.
Amazing.
And it was like a t-shirt, so it's like it sold out so quickly. You know what I'm saying? It just sold out so quickly, and it's just like
just to go off what you was just saying with this, that like I think you're saying something which actually like I'm kind of only just starting to learn now at my age, which is that like, you know, and I found it myself as music as a form of self-guided therapy. So it's like I started writing lyrics when I was like 13, 14, going through some tough times at home and stuff, and you know what I was doing then, not realising that I was doing it, but I was actually kind of giving myself therapy through writing my lyrics down and through writing down what's going in my head, and looking back at it and thinking like, oh yeah, I didn't realise that I was thinking that, or I didn't realise that that situation affected me in that way, or whatever it was. It was actually like a form of therapy, as a self-guided therapy, that wasn't someone else coming and asking me questions and you know, trying to open me up in certain ways,
or in an uncomfortable way. Or
it was me asking myself questions and then answering them, you know, and having that kind of like almost like an internal dialogue with myself, and that's something that I still practice now regularly, you know, that since I was 13, 14, 15 years old, I've been doing that, and I think that's something that's really helped me kind of be someone who now, you know, I can be sat and have this conversation with you and you know, and think and talk about all of those things. But I think definitely like what we were saying earlier about creativity, and what you're just saying there as well, like it's definitely, it's a form of self-guided therapy that
100%.
It's really helpful.
How interesting, what a good take on it. And also, you know, even if it's not, for somebody who's not musical or doesn't have any particular, you know, area, would you say that it was accessible to them to also have a self-guided therapeutic thing?
It's what they're comfortable with. I know people who really enjoy therapy. I know people who he doesn't like music, not into music, none of it, acting, none of it, but they really do love talking to people. And I feel like, as a friend, I'm 100%, like, you tell me something, it will stay between us, you know what I mean? A friendship or therapy, like I said, which is whatever they're comfortable with. If they don't like music, it's up to them, you know what I'm saying? Best thing you could do, if you don't like therapy or anything, just write a diary, you know what I'm saying? Just talk about your day, how's your day been, or whatever. Just ask, like we said, asking yourself the questions and answering them yourself. You don't necessarily have to come up with the answers. Sometimes it takes years for it to come up with answers, you know what I mean? Not everything has answers to it. There's a lot of questions that are still out there. It's like, what's going on? But only you, as a person, will know the answer. No one else will know the answer. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't tell you what your favourite colour is, but you know what your colour is, you know what I mean? You know what your favourite colour is. That's
an interesting one, because like, you could ask him what's your favourite colour, he could tell you, but what you're picturing in your mind might not be the same shade of that colour.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I think that's a really good analogy there.
There's a nice image to sort of slowly bring things down into some sort of colour. And that's also an image of hope, isn't it? Essentially. So maybe we can all kind of go away from this and just have a little think about, maybe try and put something down on paper in your mind, or any way you like, basically, and see if we can, you know, maybe just put that into practice a little bit. Do you think, should we do a little kind of unsaid agreement on that? Okay, so thank you for taking part, and it's been really enjoyable talking to you all. So
thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Susie Besson and I'm here from 180. We're a charity supporting 4 to 18-year-olds with mental health and emotional health, and engaging young people with a positive learning experience. Over the past 18 months, the pandemic has impacted children's mental health quite significantly. This has really impacted statutory and third sector organisations, and as a result we're seeing increase in referrals. On the flip side, I'm here with the Grange School, the mental health ambassadors, who are here to share their tools and strategies of how they have supported their mental health and emotional needs and those around them. Take it away, Finn.
Hello, we are the mental health ambassadors at the Grange School in Banbury. We are all year 6 and all applied to become mental health ambassadors, and we are all delighted to be here. My name is Finn.
Hi, my name is Abby.
Hi, my name is Max.
Hi, my name is Ellis. We all had our own reasons for wanting to become a mental health ambassador. I wanted to become a mental health ambassador because of something my dad went through when he was younger, and I want to help people understand the importance of mental health, and I just want people to know that saying unkind things can hurt people's feelings.
My reason is because of what happened to me at my old school. At my old school, I didn't have a very good relationship with my teachers, and I started coming to school feeling very sad and upset. Now I'm in a much better place, and I feel it is my duty to strive to help others.
The reason I wanted to be a mental health ambassador is to help people feel safe and help them express their feelings and emotions.
My reason was to help people with their worries like I did in the past. I don't want people to go through the same experience running anxiety and stress like I did. I want everyone to feel supported and learn ways to manage our anxiety.
Lockdown has been difficult for everybody. We are going to talk about a few things we worried about over lockdown and how the mental health ambassadors supported us.
During lockdown, I felt worried about falling behind and in my learning. Luckily, the teachers gave me and the others the attention we needed to get through my work and other people's work. I also had video calls with Mrs. Duff where we talked the strategies to remain calm and reduce anxiety, which really helped.
I was worried about not understanding the work online, but the video lessons really helped. The teacher also allowed time at the end of each lesson to ask questions if we were confused. We also had small emotional check-in groups online. The teachers weren't just concerned about our learning, but also took the time to see how we were feeling. We have a Make Me Smile Day every year. Although we were stuck at home, we still held it.
We all got dressed up and did fun activities. Some people even did baking at home, which made everyone smile.
Once lockdown ended, we in the staff knew it would be hard for everyone to come back to school. We wanted to make sure everyone felt supported and safe to express their emotions. We have our daily emotional check-in. If you select sad or worried, a teacher will speak with you in the wellbeing corner and ask what is wrong. That means the adult can give the support to the child straight away.
At my previous school, I was never given the chance to offload or share how I was feel. And now whilst at the Grange, the staff care and encourage me to explain how I'm feeling. Mental health at our school isn't taboo, and they encourage you to express how you feel. This has really helped me through the past 2 years.
At the Grange, we know that mental health is just as important as physical health. We're going to leave you with some top tips on how you can make sure mental health and well-being is a priority in your school.
We're in mental health ambassadors like us so they can support their peers. We know some worries need to be dealt with by an adult, but at times children prefer talking to another child as they just understand you and get you.
Start a daily emotional check-in. If children aren't happy, they won't be in any place to learn.
Remember, little things go a long way. Take the time to ask the children if they are okay and say something nice about them.
Have an adult mental health lead in your school, or to make sure the children know who it is and where they can find them. We have posters all around and our school to remind us.
Have wellbeing areas in your school, a calming and relaxing place for children to go if they are struggling with their emotions.
Get 180 into your school and hold mental health sessions and hold the Make Me Smile Day every year.
Take the stigma away from mental health and don't let talking about it become taboo.
If mental health is not a priority in your school, then do 180 in the right direction.
The World Health Organization's definition of mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. How can we describe a concept like mental health in a definition? It's limitless, endless to what you could say about it. But it also has a different meaning to every single individual. Here at Didcot Girls, we're here to talk to you about what mental health means to us and what we do to support it.
I think it's safe to say that a school is a hotspot for a rollercoaster of emotions. And the reason why is because it's a place full of people. We all have mental health. We all have our ups and downs. And so we should all support each other in looking after our mental health.
A survey shows that 27%, which is more than a quarter of British teenagers, have said to have felt nervous, anxious and on edge on most days during the pandemic.
I think mental health is a hugely important topic for young people. Not only is it something that we see constantly on social media, it's also something that students strongly express the importance of in school. Our community prefects are a brilliant example of how young people value mental well-being. They are a group of students who give up their time at break and lunch to be a kind, friendly, supportive person for others to talk to. During my time as community prefect, we presented in assemblies about how to look after our mental health, providing information that we thought would benefit other students. Because who else is better to present to young people about mental health than us?
During Year 9, I was given the opportunity to take part in a project called Debating Mental Health. The main aim was to help us learn about our own mental health, but also how to help others cope with their own. At the end of the project, there was a debate where we got to give our own perspectives of how our mental health has changed during COVID to teachers, charity officials and teenage psychologists. The school is focused on gaining perspective from students. Our head teacher had a meeting with members of each year group to help gauge how we feel about mental health. This was to help the staff understand how they can better help students who are suffering with mental health issues.
During lockdown, me and a couple of other girls needed just a little bit of support because of the transition from year 6 to year 7 was a bit tricky. So the school set up a couple of organisations, Mind and a bit of counselling for me and some of my other friends. I found it really useful to go to my head of year and they would tell me to just breathe in, breathe out, have a look at my notes, and my notes were to just go to lesson, make myself busy, but go to them if I needed to, and I found that was really helpful. I also sometimes I go to learning support. They help me just to sometimes calm down and remind me that things are okay.
In year 9, I took part in a Boxing for Wellbeing course. Before the boxing course, I was offered and tried different strategies which didn't seem to help. In the boxing course, there was a small group of us and there was no judgment because we were all there for the same reasons. While doing the boxing course, I met the school health nurse who offered me appointments during the lockdown, which gave me someone to talk to. I also joined my own boxing club outside of school, and the minute I walked through the door, it was like we was one big family. My coaches are there to support me whenever I need them. Doing the boxing course and speaking to the school health nurse showed me that there is always someone there willing to listen and help you.
As you all know, we were all impacted by COVID-19 in numerous ways, either intellectually, emotionally, physically, or even socially. Throughout lockdown, we were all stuck at our homes for 6 months, unable to meet any of our family or friends. This widely impacted teenagers, especially as we were restricted from going to school, which meant that our everyday structure and routine were to change and home learning was to commence. During lockdown, there were many students who were concerned that they had fallen behind academically, which therefore would guarantee a negative impact on their exam grades.
One of the ways that the school supports us is by reminding us that there are lots of people on hand to help. The school counsellor, the school health nurse, our heads of year, student managers, tutors, and all the subject teachers are there to support us. I think it's really important that young people know who is there to help, as students can often feel isolated, like we're the only ones feeling the way we feel. Mental health needs to be something that we actively look after, and knowing who to go to for help is a vital part of that.
At Teachers, there are various activities that are performed by students and teachers to ensure that mental health is well looked after. The school introduced the Wellbeing Toolkit a few years ago, which provides help and support for all students, advising them on their support circle, one of which includes the school health nurse, a reliable member of staff as well. We also have our Wellbeing Centre, which is a tranquil area where students can rest before lessons, as you can see here. During the lonely lockdown and in the present, we have tutor check-ins, which is another resource offered by the school, which gives students a dependable person to speak to, no matter how they are feeling.
Hi, I'm Grace and I'm a Didcot sixth form student. I went to DGS for 5 years, and one organisation I was involved in was the Community Prefects team. So I started Community Prefects in Year 8, and I got to kind of watch the organisation flourish and grow as we took on new projects over the years. So when I was starting out, our main projects were like based on Mental Health Week and Anti-Bullying Week. We had things like the Be Nice bus come to school and kind of share the message of uplifting mental health and keeping people happy and safe in school. I also did lots of assemblies where we talked about like mental health things important to us, to spread the message and encourage new people to kind of join and get a new perspective. But as COVID came around, obviously that was kind of stunted and we couldn't do as many projects. But the whole Community Prefects thing helped me build my confidence, and I was house captain at the time. So the things we were asked to do was like make videos for assemblies about keeping a good mental health, and also sharing outreach for support and giving some activities people can do to keep themselves healthy.
DGS has offered us so many beneficial experiences for learning about mental health. One of my favourite projects that I was a part of was debating mental health. This was the perfect opportunity for us to share our side of the story and what we wanted to change. The end result was great, but the actual planning and constructing of our arguments was really important and interesting too. We got to understand what mental health means to us and what we wanted to change for ourselves and the people around us. We used some great platforms such as Padlet to shape our opinions and get an overall collective of what we wanted to say. This project has really broadened my perception on problem mental health and what I can do as an individual to change it.
DGS further proposes a vast range of assemblies, sometimes focusing on our achievements, motivating students and improving their growth mindset, and other times educating us about disabilities and raising awareness. We conduct chalk-ins and dedicate days to such occasions to learn as a community the significance of helping our mental health and reassuring and encouraging the people around us.
Thank you to all the organisations that support young people in looking after their mental health.
Thank you to Oxfordshire Mind and Oxfordshire Youth.
Thanks to the Debating Mental Health Project and specifically Laura Wallace.
And the Emerging Minds Network for allowing the project to go ahead.
Thank you to Ms Barrell and all the pastoral team.
Thank you to the School Health Nurse.
Many thanks to all local agencies, and we urge all young people to seek support when needed.
We're all in this together.
Hello, so can you introduce yourself and tell me who YOC are?
Hi, I'm Rose.
Hi, and I'm Shaquille.
We're from Ark-T's Young Oxford Creatives programme, representing Ark-T's Youth Council.
We also help to plan and organise events, such as the Games Day that we've done, and also the Festival of Teenagehood, which we'll tell you more about later.
So in your experience, what was the impact of COVID on you as young people and your mental health and well-being?
For me, it showed how much I value the people around me, and it showed how much Ark-T was such a big part of my life.
For me, it felt like I was a pearl in a shell or a bird in a cage. Because I'm quite a sociable person, so I like to mingle with people, so lockdown kind of snatched that away from me.
It came as the best thing ever at first. Because I didn't have to go to school and I didn't have to wake up early, but then it impacted how I lived my life normally.
For me, well, because I do so much, lockdown made me realise that I did so much, and because when that stopped, it gave me a chance to self-heal and give me some me time as well.
How did you work with Ark-T throughout the pandemic?
So first we had Oxfordshire Kindness Wave, which is another charity that sent us parcels. Then we had creativity camps, which was holidaying at home, which is where we got to create our own holidays at home.
So we also did a strength COVID cafe as part of Ark-T's Wellbeing Week, which was really fun.
What was one of the best things, do you think, about your time through the pandemic?
It was the Festival of Teenagers. It was showcasing young people's talent and creativity.
And why were these opportunities to be creative important for you and other young people's mental health and well-being?
People have begun to stereotype teenagers as grumpy and troublemakers.
Yeah, also it kind of, allowed us to kind of celebrate each young person's individuality and creativity and kind of let them be creative in their own way.
And did you want to celebrate creativity?
Yeah.
Is that a big part of it as well?
Yeah.
So for me personally, I feel like I can be creative and it gives me a chance to be stress-free and happy and kind of allow me to allow me to express myself how I like.
Yeah. It allows me to express myself both in colour and in black and white. It defines who I am in my style, and it gives me my bounce back ability.
Plus also how celebrating the individuality of young people, but it also allows us to kind of celebrate safe spaces that are in Oxfordshire, in Oxford, and where it allows young people to kind of be happy and be themselves without any worry about any issues going on in their daily lives.
Can it give them a chance to explore different creativity, different things, different opportunities?
Yeah, and it opens a lot more doors for them.
Open more doors, definitely.
Yeah.
What would be your piece of advice for people working with young people?
It will be to make it more fundamental, there will be no set way for creativity to be.
Also, I think that when they create, don't be oppressive and don't say, okay, there's only one way of doing it, because there's actually a lot of different ways of being creative, and there's not a right or wrong way. And also, if they want to be creative in a certain way, don't oppress them. Just let them be creative. How they let their creative juices flow. There's no right or wrong way in art.
Great, thank you very much.
My name is Rachel Wood. I am the Mental Health Ambassador Coordinator. The Mental Health Ambassador project, in partnership with Oxfordshire Youth and the Mental Wealth Academy. The Mental Health Ambassador project aims to bring a group of young people between the ages of 18 to 25 who have some sort of lived experience with mental health struggles. The aim is to upskill these young people and to ignite a passion in them to support the younger generation around mental health and well-being. Some of our fabulous mental health ambassadors have recorded videos especially for Youth in Mind to comment on some of the themes that Youth in Mind are exploring this year.
We ambassadors feel it is important to know ways that we can support other people when they are struggling mentally. We must recognise that we will never fully understand what another person is going through mentally, but listening to their story is the best way to start and make the person feel heard. Looking after our own mental health is a crucial step in helping other people. By making sure we are in a positive mental space, this means that we can be more self-aware and give the best possible support to somebody else. Finally, instead of presuming what kind of support somebody needs, ask them how they want to be helped, whether this is just listening or assisting in looking for professional help.
Hi, my name is Camila. I'm one of the Mental Health Ambassadors of Oxfordshire Youth, representing the Mental Wealth Academy. So why is it important for leaders to speak about mental health? Well, in 2014, when I was at school, one of the students committed suicide. A recent study this year has found that about 7% of children have attempted to commit suicide by the age of 17. Now, you may think there are plenty of organisations, charities, workshops, support groups out there to help young people with their mental health. However, a lot of young people simply don't know about them. Now, you as leaders, you're in a unique position where you can provide that sort of information to young people. You can let them know what services are available for them in case they are struggling with their mental health. You can do it by consistently signposting, by having posters or signs on walls with contact details or useful links. You can send emails to them every once in a while. If you want to help educate young people about mental health but you're not sure how to go on about it, there are services such as a recovery college that will provide navigating mental health services to help young people with their mental health and to provide tools so those young people can look after their own mental health. I believe that it's important for you as leaders to try and build some sort of a relationship with the young people that you work with. You can do it by just asking them how their weekend was, how a project they're working on is going, how they're just doing on a day-to-day basis. Just try to talk to them one-on-one at least once, whether it's in person or over the phone, because a lot of young people out there don't have guardians or friends they can talk to about their mental health struggles. And even if you can't exactly provide the appropriate support for them, you can still direct them with where they can seek that support. Like I spoke earlier, just let them know about the services available there, because there is a big chance that if you speak to young people and build some form of a relationship, those young people will come to you when they are struggling, or they will refer their friends to you if they are struggling as well. And that is so important when it comes to early intervention, to avoid them from spiraling down or even going as far as suicide. So why is it important for leaders to speak about mental health? Encourage conversations related to mental health to help break the stigma and spread awareness. Let young people know where they can seek support and try your best to build those relationships with the young people that you work with. And lastly, don't forget to look after your own mental health. Thank you.
So we've now come to the end of this series, and I hope you have found it as inspiring as we have. And from all of those conversations and presentations from the young people, from the charity leaders, and from Professor Mina Fazel, we hope that they provided some real thought-provoking content for you to really take away and start thinking about how we can all better support children and young people's mental health. Thank you so much to everybody who's been involved in this series.
And obviously I'd like to add my thanks as well. It's been a huge effort, and we've had brilliant involvement from everyone, but especially the voice of young people, I think, has been heard loudly in this series. So thanks to everyone for their involvement and input. We'd love to hear from you, our audience, about this event, about future events, and what you would like to hear from us. So please do engage with using the hashtag @YouthInMindTalks Oxon. Thank you for listening.
It's a wrap.